So this is it, guys. This is a video where we're going to bring it all together for you. Now this one is not going to make an awful lot of sense unless you've watched the hour of free training that came in the last two videos. So if you haven't had a chance to look at those yet, please go and watch them first. So if you want to succeed in DJing, you need to face one big question, and that is what separates the pros from the wannabes? Because really this is bigger than just scratching. All the tricks you see the pros doing, manual beat matching, advanced scratching, controllerism, live remixing, these things are only possible if you've got a firm grounding in the core principles of your DJ gear. And frankly, learning to scratch is probably the best way of getting that. Now sure, we all need to practice this stuff, but that core understanding of how and when to do these things, that can be learned by just about anyone. It's a case of being shown properly from the ground up. Once you know this stuff, it never goes away, and it's the key to unlocking not only those secrets of scratching, but all the other techniques that separate performers who get respect from button pushers who are going nowhere. So now I've got a question for you. If you could learn some of these secrets while at the same time avoiding the classic bad habits that make other DJs fail or sound awful, would that be something you could commit to? Because if the answer to that is yes, I'd like you to come over to the decks where today we're going to give you your first taste of real scratching taught properly. Let's do it.
Right, so just before we move into teaching you some actual scratch techniques, I'm going to share with you that big secret which we promised you the last couple of videos. This is the big thing that 9 out of 10 DJs get wrong when they are learning to scratch, when you're teaching yourself. So here's what tends to happen. People get a controller, they get some sounds in place, and they grab the jog wheel with one hand and the crossfader with the other hand, get the sound queued up, start trying to scratch, and think, okay, this is not sounding too good, but I'm just a beginner, I'm just learning, surely it'll get better, and keep trying, and maybe slow down, and maybe speed up, but it never sounds right. And they see other people doing what seems to be the same thing, but it doesn't sound right. Well, here's why. The way that I teach, and I've taught hundreds of students to scratch, saving years of heartache by going by this method, is that we teach the techniques separately. Each hand is doing very separate things, and you have to learn them separate to each other before you then combine it. So you learn jog wheel techniques first, then crossfader techniques, and only then when you've got those skills nailed do you start to combine those, saving you all of those headaches and all that confusion when you were trying to do it two-handed right from the start. So there you go, that's the big tip. Learn one hand at a time, and with that we're going to start with the jog wheel hand. Yours might be this one or this one, and learn the baby scratch. So let's move on to that. So here we are at the baby scratch. Now you would have seen in the first video that we did, we had some captions on the screen when I was doing scratch demos showing you when the baby scratch was happening, and that was to demonstrate to you how often it comes up in scratch techniques. The baby scratch is the foundation of every other scratch technique, and with it you will learn rhythm, control, timing and consistency, and it's not as easy as it looks, and too many people gloss over the importance of the baby scratch. So I'm going to give you a really simple lesson here to learn how to do it. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is get the sounds into your DJ software. Now all of the sounds that we're using in this course are available in the downloads below this video, so download those sounds, get them into your DJ software, and then you're going to need to choose which deck you want your scratch sound on, and you want that scratch sound on the deck that is your most comfortable scratch hand. So have a little play around, which one feels most comfortable, choose your hand, go with that deck. Okay, so load the scratch starter kit from the sounds onto your scratch hand deck, and then on the other deck load the 808 beat 90 BPM. Once you've got that loaded in, you'll need to go into your software and just set an 8-beat loop on that beat, because it's not long enough. You'll soon run out of time, so get that with a loop in place. Okay, so first of all, the baby scratch without any beat. So what I want you to do is find this sound, which is at 21 seconds in the scratch starter kit, and it sounds like this. It's a classic scratch sound, and what I want you to do first of all is just use your jog wheel to position the sound right at the very beginning of it, both so you can hear it and so you can see it on the screen. Now this is one of the beauties of digital, is that we have waveforms to help us, and I'm going to use waveforms and cue points to help you learn the baby scratch here. So find that little point, so just before the scratch sound starts, move the waveform so the playhead is right before that point, and then I want you to set a cue point at that point. Okay, so next we're going to look at the finger position on the actual jog wheel. Now various people use different amounts of fingers and different pressure to control the jog wheel, but I use the pads of either 1 or 2 of my fingers there, and very gently, just enough to grip the jog wheel, but not so you're putting loads of pressure and tension into your arm. You should feel quite loose. So put your fingers on the jog wheel, and you need to have your fingers at about the 8 o'clock position. So if this is a clock face, the 8 o'clock position is where you start. And what I want you to do is move the sound forward to the 10 o'clock position. Okay, just to there. And then when you've got it there, put another cue point in. So you'll now see on the screen, on the waveform, that we have 2 cue points. One right at the beginning, and one at the place where my fingers got to the 10 o'clock position. So this is how you practice the baby scratch. Bring the sound back to the beginning, to the first cue point. You can use the cue buttons to get you there if you want to. And then put your fingers on at the 8 o'clock position, and then move forward to the 10 o'clock position, looking at the screen to make sure you don't go past that cue point. Then come back to the beginning. Then you're going to repeat it. That's actually the baby scratch. So that is the practice drill, is to move rhythmically between those 2 cue points. Let's try it again. Then when you feel comfortable at that speed, you can start to speed up. And you'll see that it always goes exactly between those 2 points. Now, this is something that you'll get used to, both hearing how it sounds and also how it feels here on the deck. This also, by using those cue points, prevents you from moving outside that range of the 8 to 10 o'clock. There you go, that's how to learn the baby scratch. Let's just have a go at it over a beat. The beat will help you to keep rhythm. And faster. There you go. So no crossfader needed, just the one hand to begin with. That's the baby scratch, and practice that until you get that rhythm and consistency and it becomes completely natural to you. So here we are at the crossfader. This is what switches our sound on and off, and it requires just as much control, but with a separate hand and at separate times to the jog wheel hand. So really important that we learn separately. So I'm going to give you 2 drills to learn control over the crossfader here. First of all, load the beat, the same beat that we used in the baby scratch, load that up onto the left hand deck, or the deck which you use your scratch hand with. And get that playing, and then let's count the rhythm. Okay, so here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now the drill to learn is that you need to switch the crossfader on and off, just so you hear the kick and the snare. The 1, 2, 1, 2. So there you go, you can hear that that control is meaning that it's cutting out everything else other than just that kick and snare. Now it's worth here just showing you a bit of technique about how you hold the crossfader. The thumb is kind of used as a spring to push the fader back when you want to switch it off, or when you want to close it. And that is the closed position, i.e. off, and that is the open position, which is on. And I use 1 or 2 fingers to just tap the crossfader, and it doesn't need much pressure. It's just a gentle tap with the thumb there ready to push it back when I need it. So let's just try that again. This is the drill with the beat. Okay, that's how you do it, and make sure that you get it crisp every time. Okay, so the next drill is by using a scratch sound. So with the scratch starter kit, get that loaded in to the scratch deck, and then if you scroll forward about 6 seconds, we're going to have this sound here. Now, what I want you to do here is set a very, very short loop on this. So it's going to be less than 1 beat, I would have thought. So I've hit auto loop there, and I'm going to bring it down so that I've got a nice short loop on that sound, and it should sound like this. Pretty hideous, I'm sure you'll agree. But that gives us another drill to be able to practice the crossfader. That sound is now looping in the background, making that noise. And if you did the same thing you did with the beat, with the crossfader, this is what it will sound like. And you can get a bit quicker, but again, always keep it in a rhythm. Okay, that's a great way to learn crossfader technique. And now what you can do is you can play the beat on the other deck and cut this sound in the same rhythm which we were doing the kick and the snare. So let's try it. And a bit faster. So you're now one step closer to understanding how DJs combine those two techniques to do stuff like this.
So now we have some jog wheel stuff down, some crossfader stuff. You've seen where that's leading. But it's no good if you don't know where to do this. So instead of just doing it randomly over the music, which is the very last point of these videos, we want to show you where DJs typically do this stuff. Now we've got 4 areas, 4 key places where it's very normal to hear DJs using a bit of scratching in a normal DJ set. And the first one of those is when you take a track which has got no beats at the beginning, maybe has a vocal typically.
Yeah, this one's got an a cappella part at the beginning, so we're going to use that. And
scratch it into the outgoing track so that you have a little bit of flourish, a little bit of something special, but nothing too in your face. Let's have a look at it.
Okay. Yeah, so I'd like to have left that playing because I do like that track, but there you go. So it's an a cappella start on the track I wanted to bring in, and I just had a rhythmic baby scratch going, bringing the volume fader up and dropping it in at the point where I would normally have dropped it into the mix anyway.
And the normal DJ points there are, the tracks were in key, the tracks were the same kind of style, they flowed. You know, this stuff doesn't go out the window just because you're scratching. You know, the scratching is the sprinkle on top of the good work you've done to get those mixes fitting together. So the next one we're going to look at is scratching a beat into a drop. So what's this one about?
Yeah, well, you would have seen this actually in the first demos that we did. So this is similar. I want to mix in a new track, but rather than just, you know, blend it in a boring way, I actually want to drop it in a way that people are going to notice. So I'm going to use the baby scratch to do that.
Let's look.
There you go, using the ragga beat there from the beats that you have with the course. So it was the same outro track, but that time I wanted to drop in that beat. So again, just a baby scratch. The only time I used the fader was just to switch it on so you could hear it, and then scratched it and dropped it in.
And it's a nice way of making a point when you're mixing from something which might be a lower tempo or that's just got a long fade, and saying, look, come on, we're gonna step it up now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take control.
And the whole point of this is that it shows that you're DJing. You know, I could have dropped that track in by pressing a button, but anyone can press a button.
So this next one is very, very common. You're kind of moving into the a cappella kind of area. This is where you drop a recognisable vocal track over an instrumental part of another track.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you've heard this. It's the basis of a lot of mashups and so on. But when it comes to live remixing, when it comes to almost what appears to be kind of impromptu, off the cuff kind of stuff, this can be very powerful.
Yeah.
And again, the scratching is the icing on the cake. So let's have a look at your example of this one.
Okay.
Like a hand in a glove, Steve. So again, the tracks are in key, they're carefully chosen.
Yeah.
But you can do that anywhere. You can do that, at the end of a big chorus, there's quite often a section where there's an instrumental part before the next verse.
Yeah.
And you've got your a cappella that fits.
Yeah.
Wonderful place and also to tease in the next tune by just playing you played a whole few lines of it there, but you could just...
Yeah, we'd do that repeatedly just to tease it in so people know that track's coming. But again, it's a way of you performing and kind of showing off a bit, showing, look, I'm really DJing here,
And this is actually a great one when you've got 4 decks, because you can have a cappellas waiting on your extra decks, so you can just be dropping them in without interrupting the flow of your main 2 decks, because obviously sometimes you find yourself moving around a bit too quickly.
Yeah. And for the purposes of that demo, one of the beauties of digital as well is I actually looped up a section there, and that's what you can also do, instrumental parts of tracks, loop them up, scratch over other bits which are recognisable, then let the loop go and let the original track carry on playing.
Of course, with digital, that's so easy because it's counting the BPM, so your loop button will just normally loop a perfect section for you.
Yeah.
So the next one is one that is always my favourite, because I tend to find myself chatting away and then suddenly I hear the tracks about to fade out.
Yeah.
And it's such an easy, I call it the get out of jail card. Steve always tells me off and says, well, you've got to know how to do it to use it for that. But once you do know how to do it, you can use it to get out of jail.
Yeah, once you're confident with scratching and with the baby scratch, what happens here is that the previous track is coming to an end, it's starting to fade, the next one's ready to go, but you're thinking, how do I bring it in? So the best way to cover up the fact that you're not ready in time is to scratch it in and pretend like you meant to do it all the way along.
It's always a cracker. Pretend like you meant to do it. But seriously, this is a great way of swapping from styles, and also, as you say, because a lot of tracks do fade out. Especially nowadays, it's more common now than it was maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah. The
tracks are short and sharp, and they get going quickly, and they end quickly with a fade, and they can be hard to DJ with.
And I use this a lot for tempo changes as well. And actually, we're going to cover 2 bases with this demo because it's also going to be 2 different tempos of tracks. So I'm going to use that fade out, scratch in the next track, and there'll be a tempo change.
Let's do
as
it.
we do it. Yeah.
So you went from disco to house, and
Yep.
from a reasonably slow tempo to something that's pretty pumping up there in the mid 120s, all in one mix, and all by just using the baby scratch.
It was a change of style, a change of tempo, and a change of kind of energy, really.
And it sounded nice and tight, and it sounded like the DJ was in control, which is what this is all about.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're the 4. They're 4 of the most common places where you hear scratching.
4 of hundreds.
Yeah. I think we'd like to move on to showing you those variations of those in, as we promised, warehouse rave to wedding. Let's look at a few variations of those using loads of different types of music, just to show you what's possible and hopefully whet your appetite for practicing some of the stuff we've showed you today.
There you go, even your dad will be impressed with your new Scratch skills. Right, don't forget to download your free PDF, all the free sounds and your exclusive free controller guide. And do watch any of the videos that you've missed. This training won't be up for much longer. Well, we'd both like to say thank you actually and tell you how much fun we've had doing this, and we hope you've had fun watching.
It's been awesome. Now, before we go, I've got another quick question for you. How do you think smart DJs tend to approach learning new skills like scratching? Do you think that they A, watch people showing off on YouTube and try and copy them for a few months?
Maybe, some do.
B, try and learn, God forbid, from books or articles and stuff like that?
Yes.
Or C, find someone who knows exactly what they want to know and get them to show them everything?
Yeah. Well, hopefully you can see that the third option is clearly the best. But actually, it's not the way that I learned. When I learned, there was no YouTube or online training or anything like that, and I didn't know any DJs who could show me this stuff. So I hacked together my own DJ setup from some old hi-fi turntables, and I taught myself to scratch by listening to taped recordings of my favourite scratch DJs recorded from the radio and trying to copy what they did, and it took me years. So if you want to progress quickly, I certainly wouldn't recommend that method, but you know, it worked for me. It did get me a whole career in the music industry. I spent over 10 years compiling and mixing compilations for Ministry of Sound, as well as DJing all over Europe and working with loads of my heroes, which was great. But it was during that time that I developed a unique formula for teaching people to scratch, because everyone from my 10-year-old cousin to my friend who's a big name DJ would see me showing off my skills and ask me to teach them how to do it. So that's how I learned to teach people.
Now, based on Steve's proven formula and on my success at selling thousands of online DJ training courses, we came up with a unique interactive video scratch training course designed especially for controller DJs. And today we're extremely proud to announce that our Scratching for Controller DJs course is about to open once again. This course has previously taught hundreds of DJs how to scratch. It's the only online scratch training course for controller DJs anywhere in the world, and it's the only scratch training course with the backing of Digital DJ Tips.
The course has had a major overhaul, including loads of new content, and it now has over 100 videos. It's completely online in step-by-step modules, so you won't get overwhelmed. At every step, you're able to feed back to us, ask for any extra help you may need, and share tips and ideas with fellow students, and you get direct access to both Phil and myself via comments and email. Unlike most courses, once you're an owner, the course is yours to keep for life. including any future additions we might put in, updates, bonus material, and it's self-paced, so you can learn whenever and wherever you want.
Now, over 1,500 of you guys replied to our survey asking what you wanted to see in a course like this, and we analysed every single one of your suggestions, so we're 100% sure it's designed to exactly meet your needs.
It teaches absolute beginners anywhere in the world both the essentials and more advanced techniques of scratching on DJ controllers. The 100 videos include 30 on technique, broken down into jog wheel techniques, crossfader techniques, and then combining the two. 14 videos on how to use scratching in your DJ sets, covering the sounds to use, when to use them, and how to scratch over music. Another 14 videos of digital tricks to help you unleash your controller's potential.
It's got 10 scratch demo videos, 15 real world technique videos. It's got slow motion drills, practice detail, and lots of optimization videos for your hardware and software combinations to help you get set up.
Yeah, and as if that wasn't enough, we've also put together over 100 classic scratch sounds and beats which you get to keep free with the course, so you can actually practice with exactly the same sounds we use in the lessons, just like we did in these videos.
But for me, one of the most exciting things about the course is the extra stuff that you're going to learn along the way. Things like rhythm, counting beats and bars, song structure, DJ set structure, beat matching, control over your music. These are all the things that are just going to come naturally to you by the end of the course, and that's going to give you masses more confidence, standing you apart from the other DJs who never learn this stuff. If you're looking to break out into more gigs, more money, more success, and recognition as a controller DJ, taking the Scratching for Controller DJs course, well, that's a great way to do it. And it's even bigger, easier, and better to use than ever.
So the course opens in just a few days, and as before, we need to limit the places to ensure we've got the time to give you the support you need and to see you through it successfully. Once all the places are filled, we will close it.
Don't worry though, because we're going to email you exact instructions the day before it opens.
As Phil knows, I love teaching people to scratch. It's great fun, and we'd love to work with you guys, so please watch your inbox for news. And of course, if you're not on the list yet, sign up now.
Till then,
bye.